Hello everyone, welcome back to the Vision of Veritas here. So, do any of you have masochistic tendencies? Do any of you intentionally put yourself in harm's way, enjoy pain, or simply love it when your ears bleed? If you said yes to any of those questions, then you very well might need help. Or, if you listen to openly left-wing sources such as TYT or the Young Turks, you simply came to the conclusion a long time ago that the vast majority of the bile that they talk about is insufferable. Now, while I do admit these masochistic tendencies do flare from time to time, rarely do I intentionally go into the den of lions just to get some information. Or like in this time in specific, I was simply scrolling through Facebook looking for some information for another project I'm working on when I came across this.
I want to hear it from MAGA Republicans, officials who had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debts, even millions of dollars in pandemic relief loans forgiven, who now are attacking me for helping working class and middle class Americans. My team at the White House posted a video of this, folks, online. You should check it out. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she and her husband got $180,000 in business loans forgiven from the PPP program. She said it's completely unfair for us to forgive student loans for working and middle-class Americans. Representative Vern Buchanan of Florida said our plan was reckless. Guess how much he got in that program forgiven? $2,300,000. This is not a joke. Can't make this stuff up. Republican governors wrote me a letter saying this relief only helps the elite few. Y'all know you're the elite few? I knew you were really special, but I know you're the elite few. I'm serious. Ted Cruz, the great senator from Texas, he said it's for slackers, quote, slackers who don't deserve relief. Who in the hell do they think they are?
I'm Rayyvana, and welcome back to Rebel HQ. That was President Joe Biden calling out congressional Republicans by name for criticizing his student debt forgiveness program. He highlights that these Republicans took out massive PPP loans during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, all of which were forgiven. Here's a little bit more information thanks to the White House on what these congressional Republicans are saying about student loan forgiveness and just how much loan forgiveness they were willing to take themselves.
For our government just to say, okay, well, your debt is completely forgiven. Obviously, they have an agenda for that. They need votes in November. So the timing is a pure coincidence there as well. But it's completely unfair. And taxpayers all over the country, taxpayers that never took out a student loan, taxpayers that pay their bills and maybe even never went to college or just hardworking people, they shouldn't have to pay off the great big student loan debt for some college student that piled up massive debt going to some Ivy League school. That's not fair.
A lot of families in our region, they've been talking about forgiveness of loans for the last 4 or 5 months, are very, very upset. Many of them work 2 jobs to be able to put their kids through college, and then to think that a lot of these loans are going to be forgiven is wrong, and they're very outraged about it. And I just knew when we got in the business it would be a disaster. We should have no business in terms of the federal government being in the business of lending students. There's a lot of people out privately that would do that.
Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen tweeted, "We do not need farmers and ranchers, small business owners, and teachers in Oklahoma paying the debts of Ivy League lawyers and doctors across the U.S. This places undue burden on those already suffering due to the weight of Biden's failed economic policy." The White House reminded him that he had over $1.4 million in PPP loan forgiveness. So I guess it's okay for ranchers, farmers, small business owners, and teachers to be paying off your debts, Congressman Mullen. Congressman Mike Kelly tweeted, "Asking plumbers and carpenters to pay off the loans of Wall Street advisors and lawyers isn't just unfair, it's also bad policy." The White House responded by reminding him that he had $987,237 in PPP loans forgiven. Forgiveness for me, but not for thee. Congressman Kevin Hearn tweeted, to recap, in the last 2 weeks, the Party of the People has supercharged the IRS to go after working class Americans, raise their taxes, and force them to pay for other people's college degrees. He had $1 million in PPP loans forgiven. And last, and most certainly least, Congressman Matt Gaetz tweeted, everyone knows that in a $60 billion plus European land war, it's always the last $3 billion that kicks in the door. Congressman Matt Gaetz had $482,321 in PPP loans forgiven. These exorbitantly wealthy Republican politicians don't want working class Americans to get relief that we desperately need because they want to hoard it all for themselves. God forbid a working class American have some of their student loans forgiven. That money should be going to people who truly deserve it, like wealthy Marjorie Taylor Greene or wealthy Matt Gaetz. With the midterm elections rapidly approaching, it seems like Dark Brandon is on a warpath against these hypocritical GOP Congress people, as he should be. Don't forget that the White House has started accepting applications for student loan forgiveness. Go to studentaid.gov to learn more.
So then Rayyvana from Rebel HQ continues to parrot the false equivalency here. Just how intellectually dishonest do you have to be to try to equate a PPP loan to student loan debt forgiveness? That's akin to saying, as a small business, I am taking out a loan that is forgivable to keep my business afloat, to keep my employees afloat during a pandemic where the government shut down and greatly decreased my business, therefore decreasing my overall revenue, therefore making it much harder and even having to lay off employees. And as a result, now having extremely diminished wages or even going out of business altogether. That's akin to comparing that to a student making a conscious choice to take out a loan for college courses that he may or may not be able to pay back in the future. And now they're stuck working at a job that has nothing to do with any of the courses that they took because A, the student didn't do their due diligence in picking out quality courses or going for a degree that actually yields a promising career in the future, or B, they simply took the college courses because they wanted the college party experience. Why should my tax dollars go to pay back a loan that some moron took out for lesbian dance theory? One is a conscious choice. The other was forced upon you by the powers that be. There is no equivalency here. To say so is not only morally bankrupt, but intellectually dishonest. What you're saying to a student is, hey, we know you're in debt, but since we have the midterms coming up and we need to make sure everything we do is given the appearance of being on the up and up, we need to have as many votes as humanly possible, so what we're going to do is we're going to offer to pay you for that vote by helping you absolve yourself of some of the poor decisions that you made, like, say, choosing college courses that really don't make you any money in the future. So instead of taking personal responsibility and working to pay off the debt that you owe like every other American has to do, what we're going to do is we're going to put the American taxpayer on the hook for some of that. Just to, just to help you out, because we're your buddies, we're your pals. And screw everybody else who actually worked to pay off the loans that they intentionally took out. Like, take myself, for instance. I paid back every dime of every cent that I took out. I worked 2 jobs, did 60, 70, 80 hours a week sometimes. I got up at 5:30 in the morning and got home around 10:30 most nights. But to hell with teaching a good work ethic, the left needs votes. And to them, I've said this before, the ends justify any means. Now, compare and contrast that with a struggling business. Imagine you're running a business and you've just been told that you have to close down because there's a bunch of arbitrary mandates that say that the average Joe can go shop at Walmart, can shop at Amazon, can shop at any of the massive chains, the huge box stores, but they can't shop at the mom and pop shop. You can't go to the gym. You essentially can't go to the vast majority of small businesses because they were forcibly shut down. You can't compare the two because there is no comparison. If you were not deemed an essential business in the eyes of the holier-than-thou Democrat Party, then you had to find some other means of staying afloat or shut down. Now, if those businesses had a conscious choice, that would be different. But the businesses didn't have a choice. They were forcibly shut down due to government mandates. That's a big difference there. That's why they can't be compared. You know, be it intentional or not, and I'm more inclined to believe it's the former, what this is doing is this is teaching young people that if you make a poor decision, you're either A, not going to have consequences, or B, the taxpayer is going to come help you or come to the rescue to help absolve yourself of those poor consequences. And this example, quite honestly, can be used in many examples of modern society. But in this specific instance, we can use it here. And that's precisely what it's doing. You're teaching the next generation and even the generation following that, because what this current generation is going to learn, it will in turn pass on. It's teaching them that you're not responsible for your actions. You know, your actions have consequences, good and bad. If you have the U.S. taxpayer to bail you out, the individual learns nothing, and instead walks away with the notion of, well, I just got some of my student loans forgiven. I don't have to worry about that now, but you know what? If I win anything like this in the future, I need to make sure that these guys stay in power. So I'm going to start voting for the Democrat candidate that most closely gives me whatever I want or whatever I can get. See, that's not what this nation was founded upon. It wasn't founded upon people getting things for free or getting anything at all for that matter. If you wanted to take a chance, come to a relatively unsettled place and try to make a name, try to make a life for yourself and your family, man, you took that chance and you did what you had to survive. That form of rugged individualism, and I know people have heard that phrase before. I quite honestly can't remember where I've heard it, but it's very valid. That notion of rugged individualism and making sure that you provide for yourself without the notion of intentional interference from others, that's simply not the way this society is anymore. More often than not, people are brought up or people develop the notion of I exist, therefore I deserve. And that's not the way things are. Things have never been that way. I mean, can you imagine in the 1850s, someone proposing a tax to collect money from the general public to pay for the wants of someone else? I mean, I would bet that even proposing something like that would have gotten you hung back then. I mean, heck, I've read stories about when they first proposed the income tax, and it was just 1% when it was first proposed. People went nuts. They were up in arms because how dare a government steal what I have worked for? What entitles you to what I have toiled and worked for? If you really think about it, it's truly immoral. So, in closing, my dear Rayyvana, echoing what the former vice president said, purely for the sake of doing so doesn't help your case at all, especially when you didn't bother to compare the two so your audience knew the differences between the two. Knowledge is key here. Comparing a choice to something that is forced upon you and then taking advantage of a government program to help alleviate that which the government has forced upon you is entirely different. I truly hope that instead of being deceptive in the future, you'll take a moment to learn about what you're talking about, or in this case, what you're simply parroting. So thank you for joining me today for the Vision of Veritas. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments, and if you got anything out of today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm still new out here, and I can use all the help I can get. So once again, thank you, my friends, and take care.